welcome to another edition of Digital Editing for TV. Today we're going to go over how to do a multicam edit. So this is when you have two or more cameras and maybe you have a separate source of audio, which is very common in filmmaking actually, to have a separate source of audio. Now in the past, what you would use to sync up things would be a slate, but a lot of softwares now have allowed us to sync up our sound with a scratch track of audio and also the source audio. This is what a slate looks like, and you can see the numbers there. That indicates time code. That's another way to sync things up. With the time code. And what it is you look at the first two numbers, those are frames, then you have seconds. The next two are seconds, the 58 there. So 19 is frames, 58 is seconds, 54 is minutes, and then you have hours. So this is how you would log footage. It allows people to view, what scene it is, what take it is, who's directing it, the date, and so it gives you a visual cue of, basically how to log the footage, which is helpful when you're editing, right? The second part of this is the numbers there. Generally speaking, you can sync up that time code there, especially with these newer slates. You can sync up that time code with the cameras and then also sync up the time code with the audio recorder. Now, this is generally speaking the way that you would do it on a film set, like a pretty new film set. But if you start working in indie films, smaller productions, and films under a million bucks or under $50,000 or something, you're gonna get into people just kind of syncing up sound, depending on who the director of photography is and the audio people involved. So yeah, just so you know, that's kind of how you do it. And in the past, you can see, how they click the top there with the bottom. Well, that was a way in the past where there's a visual representation where you could sync up a spike in the audio. So you can still do it that way. In fact, I've been on shoots where I have done that. Another fun way to visually match things up, if you had audio tethered to a camera, is just using a flash from a camera or a quick light. You could do that. You could sync your cameras that way. So there are a bunch of different ways to do it. Today, I'm going to show you probably on the most common way that you would find if you're a junior producer or a junior editor getting out of college and working for a production company, a small production company. I'm going to show you how to sync it up with the audio. So you're going to go to Canvas here. You're going to click on Practice Files. You're going to go to Multicam. And then at the top here, you just go ahead and right click and download it. Once you do that, you're going to have a folder with all kinds of footage in it. So I'm going to create a little folder structure here. So we'll put video files. I'm going to put those in here. And I have three different cameras there. 3 different files, 2 different cameras. And then I'm going to make another folder. I call it audio, like so. I'm going to make another folder. I'll call this Premiere project file. And I'll make another folder. This one we'll call exports. Well, let's get started. So I'm going to crack open Premiere in this. So today, I'll show you how to do a multicam. I'm going to show you a different technique for color correction that kind of uses some of the techniques that we used last week, but applying it to color wheels rather than the and the curves. And then lastly, I'm going to show you how to work with musical audio, right? If you were ever to record a live band. So I'm going to create a new project. We're going to go File, New Project. I'm going to call this Tim Willett Multicam. And I'm going to tell this where to go. I'm going to go under my desktop. I have Multicam, and then I have the Premiere project file. So it's going to go right there. Template, we don't want a template. We're just going to click Create. And we're going to skip this part. And I'm going to bring up my project window right there. And I'm going to create a couple bins. I'll call that video. We're going to do, I mean, it's only 3 files. Let's do video and audio. And then I'm going to make a sequence right here. And I'm going to call this Tim Willett Multicam. And it's 23.976. It's in HD. We're going to hit OK on that. I'm going to go down here, and what I want to find is not there. I want to find my media browser. Let's find that. There it is. So I'm going to go to my hard drive. It's really important to try to figure out where folders and files are rather than just hit search. It's really easy to get into trouble with files getting disconnected from your project when you move things around if you don't know where they are. So here's on the desktop, I have my multicam. I'm going to bring my audio in. We'll put it right in there. Back up a little bit. I'm going to get my video files and select all of those and drag those in. Great. So let's take a look at this here. I'm going to go to Window, Workspace, Editing. So here we have our video files. You'll notice it needs to be graded. We have a kind of below angle there. That was shot with a red, and it's in a log profile right there, so you can see it's a little bit milky looking. And that's handheld. So a lot of the shots there are kind of rough. You'll notice that they're shaky at times. So what we're going to want to do is just be careful of that when we're editing. Okay. And then we have something on sticks, right? That entire thing is just one stationary position. And then you can see I have a microphone right here, which is actually this audio file right here. And they're not synced up, right? So we're gonna take care of that. All right, so let's take a peek. What I'm gonna do, it's really simple. It's helpful when you know which files are which. So some of the things you can do if you have time code is it will sync right up. Another kind of a interesting thing is you can look, see I'm viewing this in a different way. You can look at some of the metadata and there are clues. If I look under media duration, some of these clips are pretty darn close in their timing. With the exception of this one, it's 48 seconds off, but I can see if I add those two numbers up, that's about 17 minutes right there, you see? So we can sync those up. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to select all of these. I'm going to right click on it. And I'm going to create multicam sequence. Now I have a bunch of different ways that I can name this. I'm just going to use the video clip name and we'll call that multicam. I'm going to call this multicam source, not to confuse it with my sequence that I've made. Now, if I had a slate on there, I could make in and out points on each one where the slate claps. And then I could synchronize the point with the in points. Now, another way to do it would be with time code, right? I could do it that way if I wanted to. but we're gonna do it a little differently. We're gonna select audio track. All we have is one audio track. And then we have a sequence preset. ARRI is the one that they have picked right there. Maybe scroll down to a Sony. Let's see if they have that. Sony. XD cam. No. And then we have red. So if we had the same cameras, we might want to do it that way. But I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to stick with automatic. Sequence settings, we're going to do for camera 1. And then we're simply going to hit OK. And you'll see it's processing the clips. Did it quite quickly. And then if I double click on this with my multicam source, you can see there's 4 different areas, right? So if I click on 1 on the keyboard, it'll go to 1. If I click on 2, it'll go to 2. And if I click on 3, it'll go to 3. What this allows you to do is it allows you to do real-time switching, which is really kind of great, right? So I want to bring that multicam sequence over there. So the other thing is that there are all my process clips. It just puts it into a subfolder right there, like so. I'm gonna view this like so I can kind of see all of them. That's a handy dandy way to see it. So in order to start editing, like you can see, this is just my source clip. I'm going to take my multicam source clip, right here. And then I'm going to, oh, I accidentally dragged it in the wrong place. And then what I'm going to do is simply drag it and drop it right there. I'm going to keep the same settings. And you'll notice that the screen is blank. Well, it's because I've selected that one up there. Now we don't even need to view this. And in fact, I'm going to take that off just to free up resources. So once you get over 2 cameras, things can get a little wonky, right? Like your computer can slow down. One way to take care of that would be simply to switch that to fourth of the resolution. So that's one way to take care of it. So there's nothing here. Well, don't worry about that. We're going to take care of that. So the way you take care of that is we're going to go to this little button editor right here. And we're going to make sure that we have this little icon right here, toggle multicam. And I can drag that right into this little toolbar down here. And it gives me that option. And you can do that with a number of things. I find some of the handier ones is definitely the comparison view. That helps with color grading. And then the multicam is great as well. I don't tend to use the other ones there, but you know, everybody's different, right? So I'm going to click OK. And now I want to switch to a multicam view. Well, look at that. So now we have camera 3 and 4, which is right there. And it's scaled. It's scaled right to it, which is good. And you can see there's movement between kind of both of those. So I'm going to just view this like so. And we want to start on cam 3. So I'm going to start on cam 3 right there. And I'm going to hit play or spacebar. And the audio hasn't started. There it is.
Luna de la playa en el mar, agua. Démosle a saber cómo. ¿Ah? Sol mayor. Démosle.
Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll do this first song here. So I'm gonna start right where they're starting. I'm gonna fast forward a little bit. I'm I'm using JKL on the keyboard, and then I'm using the space bar.
Démosle.
So I'm actually going to hit an out point right here. And then on my keyboard, there are two things. I can use quotation or colon, and that's going to do an extract edit, or it's a ripple delete, in which, check this out, it's going to delete everything before that. So I'm creating an in and out point just by kind of deleting a spot. It's kind of neat, and you can do that with other in and out points, and it almost acts like a razor. Very quick way to edit. So, you know, that's a ripple delete right there. Or I can do, I'm sorry, that is an overwrite, and then I could just do a plain old extract, right? So you can see if I do the one with quotation marks, it kind of just deletes something and then does a ripple delete. Now if I use the colon, it's just going to extract that, or do a lift, sorry. If I want to clear that, I hit Option X, and that will clear those in and out points. But that's a really slick way to do assembly edits, right? If I can use an insert and an overwrite, the period and the comma, to do inserts or overwrites, I can build an assembly cut very quickly. So okay, there's the out point. Oh, wrong one. There we go. And now I can see it went to camera 1. Now, on this edit, if I want to, I can hit play and then just use my space bar and use my mouse to switch between the two. And notice it was red right there, right, when I pressed on it. And then if you notice down here, it actually made a cut. So it cut from one side to the other. Now I can also use my keyboard, and on the numbers here, it's going to be 1 and 3. So numerically, it would go 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to use my keyboard right now.
Luna en la playa en el Majagual, noche de fogatas, arena y mar. Luna en la playa en el Majagual, noche de fogatas, arena y mar. Bajo la palmera voy a bailar y de una linda chica voy a gozar. Bajo la palmera voy a bailar y de una linda chica voy a gozar. Es noche de luna llena, de maracas y tambores, de güiros y de guitarras, de congas y de fogones. Es noche de luna llena, de
Now, this is great. If I want to, I can go back here and I can highlight something and then change the angle if I'm not happy with that. So we kind of repeat it. So that's it in a sense on how to do an edit with a multicam. You can see it's pretty easy. So I'm gonna wrap it up in the end of the song here and just cut the rest.
Ya no puede más el pobre Simón.
So I'm gonna make an in point right here, and I have an out point over there, and I'm gonna hit the quotation marks. There we go, I have the song there. At the beginning, if I want to, I can put a little bit of a fade. So I'm gonna right click on that and go apply default transitions. And then I'll do that also at the end here. I'm gonna do that with both the audio and video, and that's just gonna put a little bit of a dip there. Wonderful. There we go. So we've gotten this far, but we need to do a couple other things here. We need to do some color correction. Now I could color grade right on the timeline with each clip, but it might make a little bit more sense if I can dig inside of here. And basically what this is, what Adobe has done here, is they've nested a timeline within another. So we need to get to that source clip and look at that timeline that we can't really see. It's kind of hidden. So the way we do that, we're going to right click on our multicam source, and I'm going to go down, and I'm going to go open in timeline. Ta-da! And look at what happened here. It's synced up all the audio, right? That's the camera audio, and then this is the field recorder audio. And then we have the source clips right here. We correct this is we actually have to play around a little bit in Premiere. So when we get to this timeline, you can see we have, I have this Sony shot, and then below it, I have a shot from the Red camera, which is handheld. And you can see just by looking at this scope right here, the Lumetari scope, the waveform monitor, it's quite different, right? We have some spikes with the red over there, and then also we have some spikes over here, but you can see there's some green in the shadows, so we're going to want to correct that. But we're also going to want to match them up. And the way we do that is with this little guy here. It's called comparison view. So I'm going to click on that. Now the problem is with comparison view is it looks, I can shift to a clip before, right? But the problem is I have this one on the top timeline. So there's really no comparison. So I need to do something temporarily to correct that. And this is, you'll run into this with correcting for multicam for sure. You'll have multiple clips which are overlapped with one another, and you may need to do a comparison from one clip to another. And the way you're going to do that is with this little eyeball icon over there. But with this one in particular, we have to slide it over a bit so we can compare the before clip. I'll show you what I mean. So we have the red clip, and well, this one up here again is the Sony clip. So I'm going to slide that over just momentarily, right? Like I don't want to do that the whole time. I'm going to slide that over. I'll even bring it over a wee bit more like that. So now you can see that there's the Sony clip, but if I scrub this over, it's going to shift to the red clip. And then we have a comparison over there. So we want to line these things up. You can see there's a red spike over there. There's a pretty big red spike over there, and then also a green spike. And we kind of want to line all those things up. Well, I'm going to show you how to do that with the color wheel, which is a little bit a different way of doing the same thing that we did with the channels. And we're going to use color wheel and the curves today. So let's go ahead and do that. So first thing we're going to want to do is we select a clip. So I'm going to select the source clip of that Sony, right? So that's right there. So we get the source clip of the Sony, and it's just going to show that. So I want to bring down the reds and match up the greens there. So we're going to use the color wheel. And remember from last week we used the color wheel. We used actually the curves, but we used it kind of like a color wheel. Well, this is kind of the same idea. So with this one, I'm going to bring down the reds, but I'm going to bring down the midtones. And then with the shadows, I'm going to bump that up. So I'm going to do a little bit of correction. I'm going to go in between, go back and forth with the curves and the color correction. So here we go. I want to bring the reds down in the mids. I can see that. So I'm going to kind of bring that down. And you can see just a slight change, right? There we go. And then look at here. The shadows actually are below, so we're going to want to increase that. we're going to want to bump up the shadows a little bit. So there we go, like so. And that's kind of matching up. We're getting there. It's kind of matching up. Now I'm going to bounce back to my curves and I'm going to pull that apart. And when I do that, what you're going to notice is the color band is going to things are going to kind of separate. So it's a little bit of a dance here. So let's go ahead and do that. Again, I'm going to want to rest that on the 0 and bring that up. So we're up by the 100. Gently resting there. And you'll notice as I did that, there's even more of a spike in the red. So let's go back down to the color wheels here. And let's bring that red just a wee bit down. Yeah. And then the shadows. There we go. Bringing the shadows and bringing it. Now if I bring it way down, you see it's a spike in green. I don't want to do that so much. I'm actually increasing the red, bringing the shadow. And let's go back to the curves. I can make that go down just a little bit more. Great. Now I'm going to go ahead and add an S-curve for, for a little bit of contrast. So let's go ahead and do that. Nice. And I'm going to bump that mid up like so. So that's given me something that I like right there. Well, now we got to kind of change this clip before, right? We need to match that up. And you can see it's quite different. So we're going to go ahead and select that red clip right there. And again, I'm selecting the source. I'm not doing the timeline. I'm going to do the source right there. And I want the scope. So let's go ahead and get those colors matched a little bit, and we'll bounce back and forth there. So I'm going to go with the color wheels. Again, I'm going to bring that red down. That looks like a mid-tone to me. So we'll just bring that down a little bit. And it looks like with the highlight, I can increase the red just a little bit. Great. Great. That looks pretty good. Let's bring the mid down just a little bit more. Actually, it looks like the red in the shadows. Maybe I can bring that down just a little bit. And again, we're going to go back to the curves. Let's go ahead and pull that apart like taffy. Let it rest on the zeros. It looks like there's a bit of a jump there with the green. We're going to want to line that up in a few. I'll bring that up. And that's all the blown out area in there with kind of no information. If we had used raw, if we had a raw format, we'd actually be able to retrieve some of that. So it looks like I want to bring up the greens a little bit. I could do that in curves, but again, we're just going to go ahead and work with the color wheels here. So let's go ahead and bring up the shadows of the green. So I'm bringing the shadows of the green up, and you notice I'm going toward the green like that, and that's getting there, right? So let's go back to the curves. I'm gonna increase that just a little bit, and I'm gonna go ahead and put in an S-curve there. Okay, and I'm gonna bump that mid out. Great. And that's looking, to me, pretty darn close. And I'm looking at the shirt there. I think on this one, I'm going to want to add just a little bit more. I want to add just a little bit more color to that. So I'll go over to Creative, and I'm going to add some saturation. Yeah. And I think I might add just a little bit more curve to that. I'll bump that up. There we go. Now that looks pretty good there. Although that looks like there's a bit of a spike in the green with that Sony footage, so let's take care of that. Yeah, there is a green spike in there, just a little bit, which I'm not liking that much. Sony is kind of notorious for that green spike. So we're gonna go back to the color wheels, and I'm gonna eyeball this a little bit. Let's see. Yeah. I'm actually gonna go to the curves. And so you can see it's a little bit of a dance here. Again, I need to make sure that I'm on, I'm selecting the Sony clip there. So I'm gonna bring that green down just a little bit. That, to me, looks pretty darn good. Oh, and I just noticed something. I actually did it to the timeline, so I'm gonna wanna reset that and select the source. Go to the green. There we go, and then bring it down from there. Not too much. Really what you want to focus on, the most important thing, are people's skin tones, right? And I kind of use that as a basis for trying to match things. So that looks pretty good. Before, after. Yeah, that's pretty lined up. Now I'm gonna go to Window, Workspace, and Editing. Now the problem is, of course, that I don't have that in the first clip. So I'm just gonna go over to that first clip. I'm gonna double click on my red clip, go to Effect Controls, and I'm gonna do this thing. I'm just gonna copy this, and then I'm gonna double click on this other clip that doesn't have it, right? I'm gonna go to the Effect Controls, and I'm gonna paste it. Ta-da! So that should work. For some reason it didn't. Oh, it's because I'm in the sequence. Pardon me. Right here. There we go. Let's double click again. Let's go to the Effect Controls, Source. And for some reason it doesn't want to do that. For some reason it's behaving poorly. So when it starts glitching out like that, I'm just going to hit Command S, Command Q, and I'm going to restart it. You may need to do this at times if Premiere isn't behaving the way you want it to. So let's take a peek here. So again, I'm going to select this one. Another way to do it, here's actually another way to do it that might be a little bit better. I'm gonna go ahead to this, I'm gonna save preset, and I'll just call it red preset or cam. This might work a little better, so we'll go ahead and hit OK. So I've saved that. I'm gonna go to Effects and Presets, and there it is, red preset for cam. And I'm just gonna drag and drop that right there, and there we have it. Now, the thing that we need to remember is we need to bring that clip back and drag it all the way there. Then we go into the multicam, ta-da, there it is. And I'm gonna go to Window and Editing. And I'm going back to my multicam. And now from this point, what I can do, actually it looks like it's not seeing one of the video tracks. So now what we want to do is we actually want to work with the audio. So it's kind of like working with the other audio we have, except we're going to do a couple different things. With music, we are accentuating different parts of the equalization, and also we want to add a touch of reverb. So we're going to go up to Window, Workspace, and audio. Okay.
Neymar, luna en la playa en el...
Well, right now I can see that things are glitchy. I should be getting a reading right here, but I'm not. So I'm going to save my project, Command S, and I'm going to quit out of it real quick, Command Q. And now I'm going to restart it. Sometimes that happens with Premiere. You know, it's good to know when it might be happening. I think it was acting a little glitchy with my color correction, and then definitely for sure it was acting glitchy with the audio there, especially in the comparison view. Now you can see the VU music. Okay, so what we want to do here is let's first compress it. So I'm going to add a compression. I'm going to go amplitude and compression, multiband. I'm going to click on that. And we can do all kinds of stuff here. We could do indie lo-fi, we could do you know, a classical master, which I'm kind of leaning toward, or just go to broadcast. Let's listen to the classic master and see what happens there.
En el Majagual, noche de fogatas, arena y mar. Bajo la palmera voy a bailar y una linda chica voy a gozar. Bajo la palmera voy a bailar y una linda chica voy a gozar.
I'm going to put it to broadcast. I'm not exactly sold on that. Yeah, I kind of like the broadcast one. It gives it a little bit of a bump. Now we're going to go ahead and add a EQ here. So we're going to go to parametric equalizer. And with this one, I think what we'll do is we're just going to add acoustic guitar. And you'll see it really doesn't bump too much out. The reason we want to stick with this is this low part. We don't want to lose the bass in the music. That's a crucial part of the sound. It gives it a lot of, just makes it a lot more weighty.
Es noche de luna llena de maracas y tambores.
And I invite you to play around with the frequencies and the volumes there with the EQ. Now here's the secret sauce right here. So we're going to go in, we're going to go to reverb, and we're going to add studio reverb. And the two things that we're going to kind of focus on is the output level, dry and wet reverb. Dry is going to sound almost like if you were in think of it like a big oil drum. It would have more of a metallic sound. And the wet, think of it more almost like a cave. So the reverberations sound a little bit different. And, you know, as you increase the output, you're going to have more reverb. You can also just use default, right? So I could use a default there, like a Great Hall or vocal. So let's play around with that. I'm going to try vocal reverb large. It's a little intense, a little intense. So I'm going to do room ambience 2. That actually sounded pretty good. I'm going to play around with the wet and dry down here.
Maracas y tambores, de güiros y de guitarras, de congas y de fogones, luna de la playa en el mar.
And you can toggle between with and without and kind of hear the difference.
Majagual, noche de fogatas, arena y mar, luna de la playa en el Majagual, noche de fogatas, arena y mar, bailando descalzo hasta amanecer, en el horizonte vamos a ver.
And if you want to, you can play with other things too. If I wanted to try to do, you know, just add some different things there. I'm gonna try this stereo expander. Now I'm not sure if it's gonna work because I don't have a stereo channel, but I'm wondering if it's gonna fake it. Let's give it a shot.
Toda la mañana vamos a ver en el horizonte al sol nacer.
It certainly does have an effect. I'm not sold on it. Now, that seems pretty good to me. So I think we're done with this. So I'm going to go back to editing. And what we're going to do is we're going to go back here. I'm just curious. I'm going to go to the video top track. For some reason it's not showing. I'm going to restart it again and hopefully that will take care of it. You can see it's a little bit glitchy, but once you get it working, it's pretty great. So with this, I'm going to go to File, Export, Send to Media Encoder. And Media Encoder should be popping up here in a bit. And what I'm going to do is I want to make sure I know where it's going. I want to bring it to Exports. I'm going to call it Tim Willett Multicam. And we're going to save this as an H.264 file. So we can see right there. And then we're going to hit play. And once you're finished with that, I'm going to go ahead and quit out of that. You're going to go to your homework upload. And you're going to take your Premiere project file, right? And you're going to go to Multicam, drop that in there. Then you're going to go back to your homework and you're going to go to a homework here. And under exports, you're going to take your export and put it under the Multicam. Well, that's all for this week. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, remember I'm available 7 days a week. It's really easy to solve some of these technical issues that you might have, especially on this one. You might find that it's a little bit glitchy. But once you get it going, again, it's going to be, I think it will work well for you. Okay, thank you so much and have a good week.